Alright, today I got another story for you guys. As you can see by the title, going to be talking about something that could be really crazy, really controversial here. I'm going to share another story that comes from my real life. And also, it is going to be a long video, you can see by the runtime. And the reason I'm going to take my time with it, just like I did with the other videos, because I want to give you context. I want to give you a lot of lessons that you can learn from one video. You may even need to take notes. If you're a younger man, you haven't been married before, then you're going to learn some things that I've learned about relationships and marriage and this whole thing. Just in general, just strap in. I'm not going to do anything crazy to make it more entertaining than what it is. I'm just straightforward. That's how my personality is. But let's get ready. Alright, this story starts when I got divorced. When I got divorced, this was something that I wanted. I wanted to be divorced from the marriage I was in. You don't hear that very often. Most guys are usually torn and the wife's trying to leave them and wants to divorce them. The day our divorce was finalized, my ex, she cried and asked if I could try to reverse it. Like, I signed the paperwork and turned it in. She wanted me to take it back, but I felt relieved. I can't say that I was happy, but I felt relieved that I was no longer bound to the legal contract. The reason I wanted the divorce is because I felt disrespected in the relationship. I'm not someone that puts up with disrespect in a relationship, and any past relationship I had, at any time that I started feeling or experiencing disrespect, I always left those situations. I never convinced someone to love me the right way or start back respecting me. I've always left. I've left most relationships that I've been in because I'm not the type that's going to put up with disrespect. And I'll say this right now. If you're a man that has a girlfriend and you're in a relationship and you're putting up with disrespect, you're weak, because there's nothing that makes you stay. Unless you got a kid with that girl, still, no, you're weak if you don't leave. You're weak. You're weak. The only reason I stayed in the marriage longer is because it is a legal contract, and there's a lot that goes with divorce. We all know that, and if you haven't been married, then you don't know quite how much impact a divorce can have on your life, especially when you have kids with someone. So with me having 3 kids with this woman, I had a lot to consider before I could get a divorce, even though I was dealing with disrespect. So it took about a year for me to get the courage and figure out everything in my head to say, yeah, I need to go ahead and do this. I did wait a little bit longer too, because, guys, we're in love. We invest so much into everything. I invested into the house we lived in. I invested everything into our lifestyle. It was something you just can't walk away from so easily. Even when you are being disrespected, it can be hard. I will empathize with guys and say that. And then, of course, for women too. Depends on which side you're on. It can be hard. So I did stay for about a year after experiencing this, because I wanted to just give it a chance to see if things would change. And plus, I had to get everything straight in my head. It was a very emotional time. With it being one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever had in my life, besides my mother passing away, is literally on the same level, because your family member passing away, your mother, it happens and you take a long time to mourn it. With a divorce happens for a long time. The decay of the relationship happens over a period of time. It's not instant. We know that. So it's like the pain or the trauma or whatever you're experiencing is lasting for a lengthy amount of time, and you put so much into it. That's why it is one of the worst things any guy or woman may experience in their life. One of the most traumatic events. After I left the marriage, I also, as a result, left the home where my children were and now my ex. I had no bed, I had no home. I had to stay with my aunt until I got everything figured out. I had very little belongings. I mostly just took clothes with me and some bare necessities. I felt destroyed. I was at one of the lowest points in my life. Going to work felt hard. and not complaining. I'm explaining to you how I felt at this moment so you understand what men go through as well with divorce, because I think women cry enough on videos online for you to see what they go through, and you don't hear guys being vulnerable but confident like myself, which I'm going to go on a tangent since it's going to be a long video. When women say they want an emotional vulnerable man, that's actually what they mean. They want a man that could be vulnerable like me, but you can see that I'm not broken down because of it, and I'm actually not bitter because of whatever I experienced. I'm literally just telling you the story. And that's what they mean when they want an emotionally vulnerable man. They want a man that's strong enough to express what happened and understand their feelings, but also not be a weakling. And that's something I've gotten really good at because of the divorce, is the emotional vulnerability. And I guess that's one reason why a lot of women can gravitate toward me, because I know how to be vulnerable but use it as a superpower. Because if you know how to be vulnerable and be strong, people can't believe that you know how to do that, because most people don't know how to do it. Even the women that claim they want that, they are, I hate to say it, but they are some of the main people that do not know how to be vulnerable and strong at the same time. This is why the average person will stop themselves from expressing their true feelings and say, I'll never love again, or I'll never do this again, I'll never open up to another person again. You just haven't mastered yourself yet. And it takes time. It takes time. Anyway, I was destroyed. I moved into my aunt's house, and even though I wanted a divorce, of course, you still love the person. You can still love the person. And, I hadn't fully moved on. It's hard to move on from a 10-year relationship. Yeah. And from there, this was the turning point where I knew I had to figure out how to move on no matter what it took. Is I left. One day I had to get the kids on a weekend, and I called my ex to ask her something about the kids or something. I knew she was dating at the time, or, working on trying to get into a relationship very quickly after I had moved out. It was actually almost instantly, so that may not be a surprise to some people when you hear these stories online. It was almost instantly that she was, dating somebody and working on a relationship with someone. And when I called her, the feeling of not mattering to someone, it really hit, because she seemed very annoyed that I called because I was interrupting a date that she was on. So she was very, just, what is it? Hurry up. I got to get off the phone. And, I could hear noise in the background. I could tell she's in a social environment. And yeah, it hurt. It hurt. I knew she was on a date, and I think she even said it, like, hey, she just straight out said it so I can get off the phone. Like, hey, I'm out to eat right now, or something like that. I'm on a date. I gotta go. Is there anything else you need? That hurt. Even though, yes, we are divorced at this time, but you still have an ego, guys. We all have egos. But that was the turning point for me when I said, oh man, this is stupid. The fact that I got the divorce and this even bothers me, I gotta move on. I gotta figure out some way to fully move on. And this was like literally maybe within the first 2 weeks of me moving out where this happened. So that hurt enough to make me make a change. I started going to therapy, learning more about myself, and I learned where one of my weaknesses was the lack of assertiveness within myself and how I dealt with people. Changed my life completely, changed a lot of relationships I had at this point. The amount of assertiveness that I gained, whew, it caused me to get women to submit like crazy. It's wild. While I was going through therapy, I still had an empty void. And this explains the psychology of why people make all types of decisions. Anytime you go through something traumatic, you're more adverse to taking a different risk or doing some different action that you've never done before. This is why when I saw the comments on that one night stand video, if you watched it, And people are saying, I don't know how this girl could invite somebody over. How could she do something so dangerous and risky, like sleeping with someone you don't know? That girl had been through something traumatic recently. There's a series of traumatic events. I explained it in the video. I actually empathize with her, but I don't agree that what she did is right, even though I participated. But once you understand people, you don't really care too much to try to judge them. Understanding people is just way more fun for me. That's why I love psychology. She went through a bunch of traumatic experiences with her boyfriend passing away within the same year that she met me. Domestic violence, having to move multiple times, someone trying to assault her. Those are traumatic events. The more traumatic events you experience, the more likely that you're going to make decisions that you would normally not make if you weren't experiencing those traumatic events. This is why people usually get tattoos around traumatic events as well. This is how I know I'm attracted to a woman that has a lot of tattoos, because I know she has something in common with me. We've both been through some trauma. So back to the story. Now this explains where my next actions went. From experiencing all the trauma of the relationship and trying to work on myself, I still had an emptiness inside. I needed to feel loved. I needed to feel valuable to any woman. And I mean any woman. This is what a lot of people do. You don't really fall for the next person. You're really just trying to fill a hole of space. You want to be loved by anybody. I got on Match.com because I said, how is the quickest way I can get back to a long-term serious relationship, because that was all I had known for the past 10 years. This is the reason why when people get divorced, you see them get married real quick or in a relationship real quick, because they're trying to get back to the thing that they know. It's not that they're absolutely head over heels in love. They're latching on to the person that they think will give them the thing that they are comfortable with. As humans, we want our comfort zones, and we're trying to get back to the comfort zone as soon as possible. It's not anything about an actual love interest. It's not love. It's limerence, and it's attachment. It's attachment is that what leads us into some of these relationships, especially when women just break up with someone. They do it a little bit more than men. They're usually just trying to fill the void and get back to the comfortable feeling that they had when they had their last boyfriend. So that's why sometimes women will love bomb men to get back to the comfortable spot. In this situation, I got on Match.com and I was the one that love bombed the woman that I met. I needed to get back to a comfortable spot. I needed to feel valuable. Once I started chatting with her, it was like a breath of fresh air to find out that this woman actually had different interests that aligned with me that my ex did not have. So now it felt like, wow, I don't have to convince someone to be into some of the things I like. She's naturally into it. I convinced myself that I was finding a match. Could have been true or not, but we just play these games with ourselves. When you're in an emotionally vulnerable state, you will tell yourself whatever you need to hear to feel better. So I love bombed her without even knowing what love bombing was at this time. And that is why when people, especially when you see a lot of women make videos online about being love bombed and how that made the other person a narcissist, I'm going to tell you from experience, because people aren't saying this, because people aren't self-aware. I've become more self-aware. Sometimes you can love bomb somebody without knowing you're doing it. When someone thinks they're dealing with a narcissist, really, they really don't understand that the person is just trying to fill a void. They aren't trying to be narcissistic. They aren't doing it with malicious intent. They literally are just hurt, and they are trying to figure out how to heal the wound. Whatever's going to heal the wound is what they're going to naturally do. This is what we all do. Whatever's going to heal you, you're going to naturally do. And I'm saying that because I'm not saying some people aren't narcissists, but it's overused, and it's not always I'm a victim of a narcissist. It's really, you don't realize that you just lack understanding of the person you're dealing with. And wouldn't it kind of make the person that's calling someone a narcissist almost makes them one, because they think everything revolves around them. They think the reason why something happened to them is because the other person was just bad. Most of the times it's not. You're just dealing with a hurt person, and that's actually normal. A lot of us are hurt. I don't know a lot of people that walk around that haven't experienced any pain or trauma. And when you do, you try to make sure you don't feel it. That's why people got substance abuse. You drink, you smoke, or whatever, or you find other people to love bomb or try to get attached to. And this is what I did. The woman, she invited me out for our first date, actually, because I love bombed her so well. But then the first 1 to 2 days over the Match.com website, she called me like 6:30 in the morning and said, "Hey, can you meet me for breakfast?" And I was shocked. I've never had a woman just call me in the morning and invite me out to a breakfast date. So I'm looking at my phone like, is this real? Like, is this a joke? And then I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and meet you. I made sure to wear a tank top because I need to show off my body because I'm trying to be attractive. The biggest thing you can do when you date men and women is focus on being attractive first. And you may not hear that advice, but yeah, it matters. Being physically attractive, if you know some instant things that you can do to be attractive, do it. I knew that showing that I have muscles is part of my attractiveness, so I need to use that. You have to start off being attractive first. People don't want to date ugly, visual people. Like visually, you want the person to be stimulating to look at. We all gonna have our different levels of how we are seen as attractive, but you got to put in the work to at least do something. Make an attempt. And then your personality can go from there. Showed up with my tank top. She was already sitting there. I walked in. I sat right beside her in the booth instead of sitting across from her. And she was surprised. She was like, "Oh my God, you're going to sit right beside me?" I said, "Yeah." She was like, "Okay, well, why?" I said, "I need to be close to you." And I said, "You probably smell good too." So that's another thing, guys. You gotta learn how to be direct. Tell them why you're doing something because women love to know. They love to see a man that knows what he wants. Like I didn't even hide while I was sitting close to her. I'm like, "Hey, I just want to be close to you. I just want to be close to you. And you probably smell good." So then our chemistry, it hit off pretty well in the beginning. We sat there, ate, we talked for a good bit. We talked more than we ate. And she even complimented my arms because, of course, I knew that was the reason why I wore the tank top. And I was able to have some physical touch with her because we broke that touch barrier. I'm sitting right beside her. I had my arm on her leg for a little bit. She was touching my arm. She even bit my arm, like my shoulder. She said, "You have really sexy shoulders." And inside the restaurant, first time meeting me, this is morning time, daytime. So there's a lot of people in a breakfast diner. She bit my shoulder and said, "Oh my gosh, I just want to eat you. Your arms look great." So this is why I talk so much about body game in all my videos, guys. It does matter. Physical attraction matters, guys. If you're dealing with somebody that y'all aren't physically attracted to, boy, what are y'all doing? All right, our chemistry was so hot. We left the breakfast place. We went out to the parking lot. I walked into a car, and you give the little, "Oh, I'll see you another time, hit me up." So we did a hug. We did the first date hug, but I made sure to give her a good, warm, sensual hug, 2 hands around her, all that. And then we ended up kissing. Broad daylight. Broad daylight. Ended up kissing, first time meeting, 30-minute date. And we did a passionate kiss too. So passionate that we had to stop because I thought that if we kept going, someone would think I was doing something to her. She was fully into it. You know how you can tell when they're breathing and their body language changes while you're kissing them. It was that passionate where she was fully into it. So it wasn't like that. She was into it, and then I told her, "Hey, let's stop before I get sent to jail or something." And she laughed because she knew what she knew. She was like, "Yeah, we need to not do this here." And then she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "if I didn't have to go to work, um, I think I would invite you over." And I never usually do that. And so I said, the joke with her, I say, "Look, forget work. Let's go. And she's like, no, I can't do that. We just gonna have to save this for another time. So this is first date, guys. And I go home. Man, there's some parts of the story I can't even tell on YouTube. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I went home. I started talking to her more, and then I'm asking her about, like, she finds out that I basically just got a divorce, and then she tells me that she's divorced, and then eventually it gets to, she finds out, she tells me that she's going through a divorce, and so I start asking questions. I'm like, okay, going through a divorce, all right. Now, when did this start? And she was like, last year, and I was like, okay, so you gotta your process is almost over with and stuff like that. She said, yeah, it might take a little bit of time, but we're already like completely broken up. He lives in another state. He left us. And so I'm like, okay. Now left us, I found out she has a daughter. Her daughter's young. And then also I'm like, what do you mean he left you? She said, well, he was in the military. He left us for wherever he got stationed. I decided not to go. And I was like, well, that's not really left, y'all. It's just you decided to stay. But I said, I get what you're saying. You just decided y'all didn't want to be together. So that's what happened. So now I'm factoring in, she's living in the military man's house. I'm adding up stuff now because, like, he's paying for most of the stuff. And she literally told me, because he has the military salary, she was basically managing his money. And this is going to happen to most men when they get into marriages. Their wife will just manage their money. So if you get married, young man, you're going to have, I don't know why guys choose it, but it's a common thing. Men have their wives manage the money and pay all the bills, but they'll do it with the husband's money. And that was the situation. So I was like, wow. So if I go over her house, this is really that guy's house. And I was like, they're not even fully, and they got a kid. Now, factoring all these things in, I proceeded. Why do you think? It's the context that I gave you before. When you have desperate energy, guys, or women, you have desperate energy. You're just trying to fill a void. You skip past a bunch of things because you are somewhat selfish. You're trying to just get what you need so you could feel better, and that's what I was doing. I knew at this point I may not be able to have any type of long-term relationship with this woman, but I knew I wanted her because she gave me the love and attention, or I wouldn't say love, but she gave me the attention and feelings that I wanted to experience from a woman. And inherently that is a good thing when you start any relationship. You need that, but you still have to be logical about everything around the person in the relationship. All right, so cut the story short a little bit. We ended up starting dating, which is dumb. People do this all the time though. You think this is weird. We started dating, actually, like being girlfriend and boyfriend, although she's married. She hasn't gotten divorced yet. And people do this all the time. You're going to hear this and think this sounds weird. You have no idea how many people are walking around here separated and going through a divorce, but they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Heck, there's people that's just straight up married that have boyfriend and girlfriends. Anyway, so if we're boyfriend and girlfriend, we start, doing the bedroom. The bedroom's fun. We get into it. And of course, it's very passionate. You could tell by just our first kiss that when we translated to that setting, it was very passionate. And this is the problem that a lot of men fall into, the trap, which I fell into, is once you start dating someone and you start sleeping with them on a regular basis, you tend to get reckless. And I know he's like, well, this is your girlfriend, but like, think about this, guy. Is it really my girl? So what I start doing is stop using protection, because you're getting too comfortable and everything's too good, and you get caught up in all of the action, the feelings. That's what I started to do. Had really great bedroom life with her. That's why I put it. We explored a few different things. She was very submissive. We tried all different types of stuff, toys, blindfolds, all kinds of things, all kinds of things. And so one day she calls me and says, "You know what? My cycle hasn't come." This is when I started waking up. I started snapping out of that love spell I put myself into, because I knew, oh, wait a minute, I can't I can't have a baby by this girl. Like, what am I supposed to explain to people that I'm having a baby by my girlfriend that's married, but I was like, I don't even know if she's getting divorced at this point. I said, it's been months. I said, it's been a few months we've been together. I ain't hear any update on this divorce. But she told me she didn't see her cycle. Guys, this is one feeling you never want to experience. You never want to experience this, so be careful. As I say, this is for young men. I know you hear this stuff all the time, but be careful, man, because this feeling here, and I got some dark humor here. If you're weak, you can't handle dark humor, get off the page. But I literally just I wanted to delete my save game file. I wanted to get out. I was like, I'm not doing this. I didn't say it to her. I knew, I was like, I don't even want to be here no more if she's gonna have my baby, because this is such a messed up situation, and I don't want her to have a kid by me. I was like, I'm gonna have 4 kids at this point. I started thinking about my life and how it might spiral and change. I said, oh no, to myself. And so she said, if I am pregnant, what do you think about that? I was honest. I said, I don't want to keep it. I don't want to have one. She said, I figured you'd say that, but if I am, then I'm going to keep it. And my heart sank. I was cursing at her in my head a lot, but I knew I couldn't curse at her over the phone or at all, because I participated. So I'm not one of those guys that crash out. I am in control of my emotions, and I'm accountable. I knew that since I participated, there's no reason to get mad at her. And I hate when guys do stupid stuff like that. They'll knock somebody up and get mad. They knock the girl up and she wants to keep it. But bro, you knew what you were doing, so you got to be careful to not put yourself in those situations. Don't even sleep with somebody that you wouldn't have a kid with, because if something happens, they're gonna choose, and the kid's just coming, whether you want it to or not. And so I was mad. I wanted to curse her out, but there was nothing to curse her out about. So I was just cursing in my head. I was mad that she said she was gonna keep it, but I just responded to her. I told her, if you're gonna have it, I understand. She said, yeah, I don't expect you to be around for it if you don't want to keep it and stuff like that. She said, I am going to raise and take care of it. And I was just like, I understand. That's all I said. I said, I understand. I said, it's pretty much your decision at this point. And then hung up the phone and was mad at myself. And I kept saying, dang, how do I get out of this? And that's what only thing I came up with. Now I'm jokingly saying this. I wasn't really going to do it. I'll be honest with you. And I know that's not a topic most people are going to joke about, but like I said, I got some dark humor, and I'm trying to think, this is the only way out. I got an exit stage left, because me being on the earth with her and the child at the same time ain't going to work. But then, realistically, why I knew I was not going to do it. It was like, man, I already got three kids that I love. I'm not going to leave them, which is why I find when people take those types of actions, they're very selfish, which I personally would not do it, but I've been in low enough spots where I see how people get to the point. But I believe overall that is a cowardly action. But I say if you think somebody's going to take those type of actions, you need to find them some help if they will let you. Some probably won't. And so time passed by, and then she finally announces to me the cycle has come. And it was the scariest thing ever. I started joking with her then. I said, look, we're going to have to do this safely from now on. I know we're having a lot of fun and all this, but I gotta be careful with you, because I told her straight up. I said, I think you want to be pregnant. And she didn't really deny it. And actually part of it was my fault, because I introduced her to a fetish that was related. We were on some crazy stuff. Like, I usually unlock a lot of fantasies in some of the women I deal with. And so I had her introduced to a fetish that would make sense that she would want me to impregnate her. That's all I can say. I'm black, obviously, and she was not. She was of a different race, and there was a fetish that I introduced her to. But after this, I was literally scared to sleep with her, but I couldn't give up some of my urges because it was consistent and it was good, but I started being more safe. But at the same time, in my head, I knew I was back getting my exit plan ready, because I said, this is not sustainable. This woman's married and she's trying to get pregnant. I can tell she wants to get pregnant. She doesn't care if she gets pregnant. She wants my kid, and I don't want a kid. So I knew I was preparing my exit plan. So really, the next few times we were getting into the business, it was me like saying my last goodbyes in my head. Like, it was me like, come on, just one more time before I go, like two more times before I go. And then eventually, I asked her more about her divorce to figure out this was the last straw. When I asked her like for an update, come to find out, she never even filed. The process never actually started legally at all for the divorce, because the guy had military benefits and she would lose the benefits if she divorced him, which would make it harder to take care of her child. So she wasn't really doing anything with the process the whole time. I was under the impression that it was almost finalized. She was doing some work on it, and that was the last straw. I didn't tell her that was the last straw. I just played it calm when she told me. I listened to the story and I said, oh, okay. And it took me a few days to process everything that's going on. And I broke up with her when she thought everything was going well. Because I believe in leaving peacefully. Not everybody needs closure. Because closure don't even close anything. People still going to wonder stuff. People still going to question stuff and contemplate things. So I left her. I spoke on the phone with her. She was talking to me. It was like a normal day to her and I. And then she wanted to, I do feel bad for some of this, so don't think I didn't feel bad, because I did care for her. I did like her. And it hurts to hurt other people. I'll be honest with you. It hurts to hurt other people. It hurts to break up with people. But I knew I had to do it. I knew this was not a situation for me, and I had to get out now before it got deeper and worse. She didn't really understand why I was breaking up with her. And that was it, guys. She was a really good girl to me. Actually, the phone that I'm recording on now, she bought it for me. I didn't ask her to buy me a phone or anything. She went on Amazon, spent $1,000, get my phone unlocked,